Today I want to bring you a build video for a ship in Starfield which is both visually appealing and yet is made up mostly of functional parts and less useless cowling. Here, where even the wings are made up of functional parts that makes the ship run faster, fight better, and store more cargo. There's very little cowling on this. It's a very efficient flow. Alright, so here is the build video for my ship, the Expedition. The inside is enough. We have enough habs, and they don't lock together in weird ways or have ladders in strange places for the most part. And I'll show you the one exception to that based on a design choice. Let's have a look at the ship here. Now, when I designed it, I was going around the concept of, I was going with the NASA punk feel of the game, and I wanted something that looked like the old NASA Space Shuttle. And that's kind of how it started off. And as I built it, a lot of things kind of came up along the way. First of all, though it seems boring, in a way it kind of does. It's like, oh, you just built one that looked like an airplane. I'll be honest, it wasn't necessarily the intent. But when you look at this thing from certain angles, it just has this, yeah, especially from this angle here, it looks like a fighter jet kind of. Now, one thing I really like about it, before we get into it, I just want to list a couple things about it. The wings. I did not build this with the intent of having wings on it. It was pure accident. I wanted those huge tanks on the side, but as I built habs and modules around the tanks, it created a wing shape. If you actually look at the wings, the only wing pieces on it are the leading edges. It's just made up of modules. All right, so let's have a look at it in the thing here. All right, so looking at this here, and I'll show you how to build this and set it up. One thing I liked about it, and I mentioned this, it has very few cosmetic pieces snapped on around it. It's mostly built out of the pieces that make it up, you know. Of course, there are weapons. I hid them under the wings here, and it even allowed me to put some down by the landing bay here, so it keeps the ship looking pretty clean. Now, if you look at the stats down at the bottom, you see it holds a really good amount of cargo. It also has workable mobility, jump range, and everything else. I was actually kind of surprised that I was able to fit everything here. Oh, it has a lot of fuel, obviously, because I wanted these two big tanks for aesthetic reasons. And then same with these two tanks right here on the side for aesthetic reasons. And as it turns out, well, the ship is really solid because of that. Okay, so here I've stripped off everything but just basically the hab modules. I figure if we're going to do some kind of build guide on this ship, let's start with this. The hab modules are laid out very basically. I wanted to kind of use the 2x1, lengthwise structure, use that to our advantage. Instead of putting them in a big block. I have looked to great extent online, and the best I can find, I can't find a surefire way to avoid ladders in places you don't want them, except to simply work with the conventions of the game and build things in a simple manner. There are, and I will in a future video show a build I have with a ship with very complex multiple decks, and it still comes down to the trick of simply not letting habs overlap each other as much as you can. Now, in this case, because of the ship's really simplistic design like that of an airplane, I'm restricted to lengthwise design, which works well because there's not many places that it can randomly place ladders, right? So anyway, so here we have the habs laid out like this. Now here there's a break in the ship where there's a hab module here and nothing behind it, and then there's one here. Two reasons for that. One is this hab module, there's no module that attaches to that and looks good. The other is the design basis for this being the space shuttle. I had this open as if the bay of it was open, Now that does create a thing where there's a ladder in this module right here, and there's a ladder here. Well, there has to be, but I'll show you why that doesn't matter so much. So here you come up into the science lab. I put the science lab right here. I wanted the most essential modules. So what we have is we have an all-in-one, so that hopefully the crew will use this for sleeping and not in my bed, which I put next to it. So I have a captain's quarters, the all-in-one, and then the workshop, the science lab, and armory. The workshop and science lab are two things that I find essential to any one of my ship builds so that I can research and upgrade equipment. So I definitely want to have these two in there. I want to have the all-in-one because it has a galley in it. although the research lab also has a galley, but this has a galley in it and gives the crew someplace to rest other than my quarters. And then I have the armory so that hopefully I can display some weapons and armor in there. Up here we have the control station, which gives it simply more crew capacity. And as I mentioned, there's a second unneeded ladder because this hab is not connected to this, but then again, that just doesn't look right. So there's a break in here. But again, you know, like the actual space shuttle, it look kind of has the appearance of just like the open part in the top of the space shuttle. There's an extra ladder here, but this is the control station. There's no need for us to really go up there. That's just for them to crew parts of the ship, right? So it doesn't really get in the way. One thing I want to mention before we move on is right here. So these pieces here, these are the Hope Tech pieces that you can only get from Hopetown. And a lot of this stuff is custom pieces that you can only get from certain places, such as the landing gear, and I'll address that when I get there. Now for these, you notice this one's companionway, storeroom, storeroom. Now you can change this by simply selecting this storeroom, and I can change it to a companionway. But the thing is, I found that when I did that, the reason this is companion, storeroom is when this was also a companionway, like this, when both of these were companionways, there was actually two ladders in the armory right here. There was a ladder up here, and there was a ladder up here. And it made no sense. I was pulling my hair out trying to figure out why until I just did that. And now there's only one ladder, and it's right here. So that is a side note. So here's the hab layout for my space shuttle design. And it does seem to lack creativity. I know. It's like, oh, he built a ship that looked like the space shuttle. Well, it is a space game. It was a natural train of thought. It turns out it's actually a really cool design. I'm very happy with the ship. That said, here's the hab layout for it. So the landing bay we're using is the Nova landing bay. I'm using a lot of Nova pieces because I feel they were kind of space shuttle-y looking. And I try to use the same interior pieces so we get the same colors and interior flow. We're using the Nova landing bay. Unfortunately, this was my only option for a dock, which adds yet another ladder to the thing, which I didn't want. But this is the only option for a dock because of the way the ship's designed. It has to be on the bottom. Because it had to be on the bottom, I had to have this companionway to put the docker down there. So that's this. Now, this cockpit you can only get from Hopetown, I think, because this is the big one with the 360 cargo, the commander bridge, but you have to go to Hopetown anyway to get these pieces, and that's on, what is it, Polvo in the Valo system, is that right? I think so. We should know where Hopetown is. So that's the basic hab layout for it. And now this landing gear, we get away with, even though the ship's fairly massive, we get away with very few landing gear because these landing gear, and I'll show you when we get back to the build, these are the Nova landing gear that you get on Titan in the Sol system. And these landing gear each have 4 thrust, which is twice as much as most of the landing gear in the game. So that's how we get by with only 4 landing gear. That back one is a double landing gear, but it's just an alternate variant of this. So there's actually only 4 landing gear. And again, yeah, you can see here the wings really aren't made up of wing pieces. Only the leading edge is. These are all the wings are made up of an engine, a hab module, a fuel tank, a storage unit, and somehow it just kind of accidentally came together to create a wing. I actually wasn't trying to. It's because I created these fuel tanks, and then I needed something on the outside to attach to them, and it just happened. And I was like, oh, I guess we're doing a space shuttle looking ship. So let's go up in here. All right. So when you come up, you're facing forward, of course, like always. So you come up in the science lab. Now, again, because it's all connected longitudinally with the length of the ship, you're not going to have... Yeah, there's not a lot of breaks in the sides for doors and windows, so you get the maximum amount of decoration and clutter along the side because it doesn't have to try to connect other pieces to the side. The one exception, of course, being back there. I'll get there in a second. Heading towards the fore of the ship. Here we have the armory. And again, yeah, so when that unit up there was a companionway, there was actually 2 ladders through here, and it made no sense. Hey, I don't know. I switched it to a storeroom, and boom. Maybe that's a trick to avoiding ladders. Try just hovering over an item like a hab module and hitting back and forth and swapping the variant of it. That I don't know. But I've seen every trick in the book to avoiding ladders, and none of them seem to work. Anyway, going up here will take us right behind the cockpit. Now up here, these are the Hope Tech special fuselage pieces, and they're not very special. They don't really have anything on the inside. They're just companionways. So yeah, cockpit's up there. And then back here we just have these, and these are only here to give it that fuselage space shuttle-y look on top. And up here we have a cockpit, but yeah, it's the Armstrong cockpit. Alright, so going back down here. Alright, so the armory, the science lab. But back here we have the all-in-one, and here's one of those places where it made its own choice. For whatever reason, the workshop is connected through a door here, and the captain's quarters is connected through a door here. I've tried reconnecting him, and it just wants to put it in a zigzag pattern, but it's not that bad. All of the interior, I should mention, is Nova. I kept it all the same. That way it flows. It flows well with the same colors and everything. So this is... And they still choose to sleep in my bed. Yeah, you know, that's annoying, isn't it? So the inside flows fairly well, with the exception of there's a second ladder, and that's because up there, the control room is a separate upper story, as I showed you, and there has to be one down here to the dock. But it's not that bad. So that's the interior. It's fairly simple. I wanted to keep a ship that was simple, that didn't have too many cowlings, that only had the needed to have modules. I was tired of making big blocks of habs locked together that put strange, mazes of doors and ladderways. So let's have a look at the pieces that make it up. Okay, so here it's basically broken down and have most of the stuff torn away, at least so that we can see where the hab layout is. All right, so again, here's the armory, into the science lab, which is right above the landing bay, the Nova landing bay, and then so up here we have these pieces. What I did here in the middle is, this is kind of like the space where the space shuttle is open, and it provides a nice break between this module and this cowling up here because, so anyway, what I put in here was a Hope Tech Cap B mid, and I put the shield generator on top of it. This shield generator, I'll probably change. It's just what came with the ship. I built this off of a pirate ship that I captured, and the shield works fine. But so I put the shield right there, just something to kind of break up the flow of the thing. And there's a way that, very important, this piece, and I'll get to this piece. This piece goes here. Very important that goes into the wing, because without that there, this break in the fuselage can kind of appear to have your ship broken in half and go straight down. So it's important you have a connecting piece there that continues the flow throughout the ship, if you follow. Moving back here. So I put storage wherever I could. Storage is hidden all over, obviously, as we have a lot of storage. Right here on the control station, on either side, flanking it, I have this little cargo hold. Two of these little 225 ones, one here and one here on the other side. On top of this would be the captain's quarters, and here is the workshop. On top of those, I have these little fuel tanks, and these are strictly for looks. We have 1,500 fuel in this ship. It has plenty of fuel. I put these for looks, and they kind of flow into the engines pretty well. It's a decent little look there, I think. So we have these little engines here. And then I used the Nova brace, the Nova engine struts, connects that pretty well. Now, with a ship like this, let's move on to one other thing real quick. With a ship like this, one huge challenge was, where do you hide the reactor and grav drive? Obviously, you can see where I've put them. There was a huge, huge conundrum. The best place to put them is, right here. And it actually works out because the grav drive protrudes beyond the end of the ship, and it's kind of see-through look, kind of lets the ship kind of fade into like a skeletal frame, which I like. So we're using this. This is the best reactor that I can buy, so that's why it's on here. And then this right here is our grav drive that we're using, and this was pretty much the only place to put them. Moving back to what we're doing here. So this kind of forms the basis of the wing, if you want to call it that. Here's the fuel tanks we're using. I'm not sure exactly what unlocks these. They simply, at some point, they became available for me to buy. I was assuming in my previous video that the things were level locked. I'm not sure if it's that, quest requirements or whatever, but these suddenly appeared for me. And they're available at pretty much every spaceport, whereas they weren't. So I'm not sure, but I used these. So we just have the hat piece come off here. Underneath this hat piece, I didn't pull this out. Underneath this hat piece, I have this 30-ton hauler cargo hold right here. Makes kind of the under part of the wing. A lot of this stuff does kind of come together to be wing-shaped. It was pure happenstance. That goes there. And then I have one of these little, on each side, there and here, I have these little Hope Tech noses to kind of round off the leading edge of the wing. Once I saw it was going to be wing-shaped, I started putting pieces on it to contribute to that. So you can kind of see how this goes together here. Built into the wing, kind of part of it, is one of these engines. These were not the original engines that were on here. I realize now, thanks to comments in my last video, these are unlocked via a quest, and they are the best engines in the game. If you don't have access to these, there's quite a few engines that look good snapped onto this ship. There's a lot of engines I tried that snapped really well into the wings, and it's just these guys right here just snap right in there, and all this just really slides right together. These are the two other engines. These are really solid engines. The ship would run just fine with 4 of these actually, but I used these guys right here. They use less power and have higher mobility. I mean, they're kind of OP, but that is what it is. So this snaps right against the reactor, and this little Nova cowling right here, I use a lot of these on the ship. This little Nova cowling 1LPF. And then this cargo hold makes up the central rear portion of the wing. This won't snap in here until we do, because I built the wings from front to back, and it kind of just happened. This wing has our weapons attached. I'm currently in the process of upgrading these weapons. I did just put these missile launchers on, but these railguns will be upgraded. But anyway, these wings allow you to hide your weapons under the wings. Kind of, yeah, it did kind of take on a fighter jet style inadvertently. Wings to the fuel tanks. Let's move this out of the way for now. And then this is simply, this is all the same piece right here. Yeah, this is just the middle variant of it. And this snaps to that. Now with that in place, we can now snap this cargo guy right there, and that kind of completes the look of that wing. Then I have these on the back right here, just so that when you're looking at the ship from the rear, you don't see this big thick edge. It kind of softens it up a little bit. This was kind of a random inclusion, but I like it. It's contributed to the space shuttle look because it kind of looks like, whoops, it was up here. Kind of looks like solar panels, I thought. So I slapped one of those there. Not on the other side. I just put one there because I kind of like asymmetry sometimes. So that's how the wings go together on it. And it came together to create a great wing. And the thing, again, with this is there's not a lot of extra cowlings. Pretty much all of the pieces that make up the wing, as you can see, all of the pieces except for these 2 little edge pieces, all of these are actual useful pieces that contribute to the function of the ship. So that's one reason this ship is very efficient, and actually the main reason I wanted to share it with you. I don't think the design of a space shuttle is very original. No, it's that everything on this comes together in a very form over fashion kind of way, and yet it still looks good. So then we have, we have to attach this piece first, and then we can attach this, and then we can bring in the storage unit. It works. Whoops. There we go. I mean, it works. And then these leading edges here, again, these leading edges help keep that empty spot from making the ship look broken in half. All right. So let's put this guy back here. Oh, the tail section. This is a Deimos spine, Deimos tail. It's the only tail-looking thing in the game that I think of, and works kind of decently. It's just that snapped right there. Down here on the bottom section of the tail, this is just a really handy-shaped storage unit, and that's pretty much why it's there. A lot of this was, a lot of the shape of the ship is built out of functional pieces that just had shape to them that look like the bottom of a tailpiece, and there's some extra storage for us. Moving up here, I have 2 fuel tanks that we totally do not need, but they do contribute to kind of a modern aircraft look. 2 more of these Nova cowlings right here, because here's the thing, if I didn't have this stuff on here, it looks really long, and yeah, you want to break that up with adding stuff like this. The ship totally has too much fuel, but these tanks allow very cool aesthetic shapes that allow it to not look so long and boring, it would look like a long hot dog otherwise. The landing gear you're going to have to go to Titan to get. Well, just like you have to go to Hopetown to get this particular cockpit, I believe, and you definitely have to go to Hopetown to get these fuselage pieces. You're going to have to go to Titan to New Homestead to get this landing gear, but it's simply, in my opinion, the best landing gear there is, because you have this variant, the middle piece variant, and the wide variant. All of these have 4, well, it's the same one, it has 4 lander thrust. It's twice as much as, I think there's one other kind of landing gear that has 4 thrust. I forget exactly, but I like these right here. You have to go to New Homestead to get these. And that simply allows me to place half as much landing gear. Of course, up here we have a Tayo cowling for bottom underneath our cockpit. Oh, up here, these are Nova pieces. These are just Nova cowlings that they kind of, let's move this out of the way, they kind of match this piece, the fuselage up here, but they don't match it enough. Say they won't line up, hence the break in the ship. And again, it kind of looks like the open bay in the Space Shuttle. When I built this, I was kind of in a NASA Space Shuttle mood, apparently, and it came through in the design. That said, the ship flows really well. As you can see, it's very simple. The thing I cannot stress enough I like about the ship is that almost every piece on it has a use. You know, it's built out of the useful modules that make it up. I've built a lot of ships, let's look here, that are just, and I can show the Xterra, which I showed in my last video, has kind of gotten a little bit big and crazy. It's a little bit big and crazy looking. This ship is made mostly of cowling that has absolutely no purpose at all, and so it's got a mass of 4,700, and it's mostly just wasted mass. It's kind of a, I guess it depends if it's your thing or not. It's kind of a crazy looking ship, but here, pretty much every piece has a purpose. We don't have any more habs than we need, and they don't overlap in weird ways that would cause unexpected ladders to come down in weird places. The ship's easy to move around. It's really good all around. It's got good offense, defense. I could use a better shield. Yeah, when I get some more money, I'll put a better shield on it. It's got incredible storage. It can still move around pretty decent. And the way it's set up anyway, I can put power to almost all the systems. So guys, thanks so much. Tell me what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you, your ideas, your input on the video and such like that, what we can improve next time. And all right guys, I will see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching.